My name is Julian Pareto. I'm a technical solutions architect in Cisco's EMEA SP and partner collaboration team. In this module, I'm going to be talking about contact center integration with WebEx calling. First off, I'm going to cover WebEx calling multi-tenant. And in particular, I'm going to talk about WebEx calling integrated in the cloud with WebEx Contact Center. As you can see in the screenshot here, we have a couple of options for WebEx Contact Center telephony integration. We have the voice POP bridge, which is the option for integrating with any call control. And then we have a specific integration in the cloud with WebEx calling. And in this first time setup wizard in Control Hub, you would select the WebEx calling option to integrate with WebEx Contact Center in the cloud. Now, one important thing to be aware of is that WebEx calling multi-tenant and WebEx Contact Center need to be co-located in the same home region. So to select WebEx calling in the WebEx Contact Center first time setup wizard, you need to have the WebEx calling multi-tenant already set up. And then when you select WebEx calling in this WebEx Contact Center first time setup wizard, it will ask you to select a location for WebEx Contact Center. That location will need to match the location that you're using for WebEx calling multi-tenant. If the country and region are different, then Control will not actually allow you to continue with the provisioning of WebEx Contact Center. Now, with this integration, the PSTN into WebEx Contact Center will use the WebEx calling PSTN integration. Now, there are a couple of options here. We have cloud connected PSTN, and we have local gateway. An important thing to note is that at the moment, Cisco calling plans are not supported with WebEx Contact Center. If a customer wants to migrate or coexist from any on-premise telephony system, such as an on-prem UCM, then PSTN through the WebEx calling local gateway will support WebEx Contact Center agents on-prem UCM or on a third-party PBX connected through a local gateway. So this actually allows customers to migrate over a period of time to cloud calling. It allows them to coexist with on-premise telephony systems. They can have a single WebEx Contact Center instance, and that instance can have agents both on WebEx calling and also on on-prem UCM or other third-party PBXs. Now, for global deployments, we have a consideration around where agents and PSTN traffic is coming into the contact center. And we actually have a recommended deployment and then what we call an at-risk deployment. So right now, the way WebEx calling multi-tenant and WebEx Contact Center are integrated, as I mentioned, the integration relies on them being in the same home region. Now, for customers that want to have a global deployment where potentially there are going to be agents or inbound PSTN in other regions in the world, then we need to consider what the impact is going to be on media latency around that. So a recommended deployment, which is the one on the left, is where potentially we have contact center agents in remote regions, but the callers from the PSTN into the contact center are in the home region. So in that case, as we can see there, we have callers coming in from cloud connected PSTN. These callers are hitting the WebEx Contact Center in that home region. So the media is anchored in WebEx Contact Center in that home region. And then the media is extended over the global WebEx backbone out to an agent on WebEx calling in a remote region. So obviously we have to consider the media latency here, but this is manageable. What we then call an at-risk deployment, which does not mean it won't work, but you need to really consider the additional latency that is involved here, and work with the customer to determine whether this latency is acceptable or not. This at-risk deployment is when both the agents and the callers into the PSTN are in a remote region. So in this example here, we have the inbound PSTN, cloud connected PSTN coming into the remote region. That media then has to go all the way into the home region where it's processed by WebEx Contact Center, and then the media to the agent goes back out to that remote region. So you can see we're doubling the latency across the global WebEx backbone compared to the deployment on the left. So again, this is something that you have to consider and work with the customer to understand whether this is going to be acceptable or not. Now, the good news is that on the roadmap for this year, for 2023, we have RTMS real-time media service. This is a new voice media layer that will be integrated with WebEx calling for WebEx Contact Center, and this will provide regional media. So in that case, what we will actually support is it's a global deployment, and in the use case that we have on the right, where the callers and the agents are in a remote region, in that case, we'll actually have a real-time media service, an RTMS layer, actually available in that remote region to process the media. So even though the WebEx calling and WebEx Contact Center home region are actually elsewhere, and the signaling is obviously going back to that home region, the media will actually be processed locally in that region with this RTMS. So again, that is coming later this year. And then once we have that, these sort of considerations around latency and trying to determine whether a deployment is at risk, that will be eliminated. So moving on to dedicated instance. Now, so dedicated instance, this is obviously UCM in the WebEx cloud. So we do have some more flexibility in terms of contact center integration. So we have a few options. The first, which we've seen as being quite popular, is UCCX, Unified Contact Center Express, because we do have customers that have got on-prem UCM and also have a UCCX and are looking to migrate that to the cloud. Now we have a couple of options with UCCX integrated with dedicated instance. The best option is to host it in Cisco IaaS, in Cisco Infrastructure as a Service, which is a service that can be purchased. You can actually purchase compute in the same data centers co-resident with dedicated instance. So obviously in that case, the latency between UCM and UCCX is minimal. They're basically next to each other. We do also support another option, which is for partners that are partner connected to dedicated instance. Then they could actually host UCCX in their network, as long as they can meet the maximum 60 millisecond round trip time that is supported between UCCX and UCM. To be clear on this, what is not supported is a customer having on-premise UCCX integrated with dedicated instance. If they want to keep UCCX on-premise, then they will have to have an on-premise UCM integrated with that. Another option is WebEx Contact Center. And again, we've seen a lot of customers that, by wanting to migrate calling to the cloud, they want to migrate Contact Center, and WebEx Contact Center is a great fit for replacing UCCX. So right now, before April 2023, what we support is a VPOP integration between dedicated instance and WebEx Contact Center. So in this case, we are treating dedicated instance as just a normal UCM. The integration would be a voice pop integration with a cube hosted by the customer partner on the customer network. What we have on the roadmap coming in April 2023 is cloud integration between dedicated instance and WebEx Contact Center through WebEx calling multi-tenant. So in this case, this integration will actually be through the SIP trunks that we have in the cloud between dedicated instance and multi-tenant, and therefore there'll be no need for a customer or partner to purchase a cube and host that. Cisco will actually do the integration in the cloud, and again that will be through WebEx calling multi-tenant. So there will be some configuration required on multi-tenant in Control Hub to do that integration. Otherwise, any other contact center solution, on-premise or cloud that works with UCM can integrate with DI. So anything that works at the, now with UCM can be made to integrate with DI. Now, there are some considerations here. First one is that DI will be sized based on the knowledge worker and common area device count. So you should need to be very aware that for large contact center requirements, in particular where there's large CTI requirements, additional capacity will not be provided for dedicated instance to cater for that. So again, it's really important to understand the requirements and the design that is required. The other consideration is that cloud contact center integration will require a cube or other SBC on the customer network. So, Cisco will not be providing sort of any cloud connectivity to another cloud contact center directly out of the WebEx cloud. Any integration would have to be through the customer network, and typically the customer will have to provide, will have to do that through an SBC, to connect out to the cloud contact center vendor. If a customer requires UCCE, Unified Contact Center Enterprise, then a key thing to note is that the agents cannot be on dedicated instance. So for customers that require UCCE, we have two options available. The first is WebEx Contact Center Enterprise, and with WebEx Contact Center Enterprise is UCCE hosted and operated in the WebEx cloud, and with WebEx CCE there is a dedicated UCM provided for agents. So so in this case, the agents would actually be on the dedicated UCM that is provided as part of WebEx CCE. And note that the private peering for WebEx CCE at the moment is separate to DI. Another option is if the customer wants to keep UCC on premise, then they will have to have an on-premise UCM for the agents. In both cases, if dedicated instance can be used for the back office users, and then can be trunked to the UCM that is used for UCCE. So whether it's WebEx CCE or whether it's on-premise UCCE with with its own on-prem UCM, dedicated instance can be trunked over the customer network to that, so at least they can they can make private calls between the two systems. And that's the end of the module. Thanks for listening.